Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a quick video with my predictions for the playoffs starting today. Last year I predicted that Tampa would win, and I was right. So I'm 1 for 1, so I have a pretty good track record, and we'll see if I can keep that going this year. Okay, so starting in the East Division, we have Boston versus the Capitals. So, this series I think is going to be really close. A lot of other people have been going in all different directions. But I think Boston has it in them to upset the Capitals in their physicality and win the series. Moving on to Pittsburgh versus New York Islanders. I think Pittsburgh can handle New York pretty well. New York hasn't been doing so good recently, and Pittsburgh has really been on a roll. And I don't know, it's hard to say no to a team with Sidney Crosby on it. So Pittsburgh in, 6 games. Moving on to the Central Division, Nashville versus Carolina, and Tampa versus Florida. Nashville versus Carolina series. Nashville is pretty good, but Carolina is just such a good team. They're good in all categories: goaltending, defense, offense. And I think Carolina can handle Nashville and win the series, maybe 6 games. I don't know. Nashville, I think, if Saros is on his game, he can definitely steal a few games from Carolina, but Carolina in 6. Moving on to Tampa Bay versus Florida. In my opinion, it's one of the most interesting series. You have Tampa coming off a win. It's pretty hard to win 2 in a row. And you have Florida, who on paper has been having a better season than Tampa. I know that Kucherov and Stamkos are coming back for Tampa, but that's a question mark. It's a big if. And Florida has proven themselves in the regular season, so now they can have a chance to beat the defending Cup champions. So I'll take it for them as long as Vasilevsky does not steal the series from them. So I'll give it to Florida in 6 games. Over in the North Division, we have Toronto versus Montreal, facing off in the first round, and Edmonton versus Winnipeg. So Toronto has definitely been having a better season than the Canadiens. They made a lot of moves in the off season to bring in depth and physicality. But I don't know. They can't seem to get it done in the first round, and I don't know if this year's any different. So I'll tentatively take Toronto winning it in 7 games, but they always seem to prove us wrong and always lose. So we'll see if this year's any different. Next, we have Edmonton versus Winnipeg. So you have Winnipeg, who's had a pretty decent regular season, but has a really tough go of it recently. When Hellebuck's not in his game, but they do have players like Ehlers and Wheeler and Scheifele and Pierre-Luc Dubois with that really strong offense. But on the flip side, you have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And Connor McDavid. So, with that said, I do think that McDavid and Edmonton Oilers are the better team, and I think that they can handle Winnipeg in probably 6 games. Moving on to, last but not least, the West Division, with Colorado facing off against St. Louis and Vegas up against Minnesota. So starting off with Colorado, I have Colorado beating St. Louis. They just seem like a better team. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as maybe a lot of people have thought. So I'll take Colorado in 7 games. Moving on to Vegas versus Minnesota. I think Minnesota and Kaprizov are good, but Vegas Golden Knights are the Vegas Golden Knights. They've proven that they can go far in the playoffs, and I don't see this year as being any different. So in this series, I'll choose Vegas over Minnesota in 7 games. Okay, so moving on to round two, we have Pittsburgh versus Boston in the East Division. I think the Boston core has it in them, but Pittsburgh has been better than them in the regular season, and I think they have it in them to beat the Bruins. So I'll tentatively pick Pittsburgh in 7 games over the Bruins. Okay, so moving on to the Central Division, where we have Carolina versus Florida. Despite Florida's success so far that I predicted in the playoffs, I just think Carolina's better. They have better offense, better defense, and better goaltending, and I think they have what it takes to win the cup. So I'll pick Carolina in 6 games. Over in the North Division, we have the tentative Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Edmonton Oilers. This is interesting with Matthews versus McDavid. But I think if Toronto can shut down McDavid, that they could have a really good chance at beating Edmonton. I mean, that same thing goes for Edmonton, but I think Toronto's physicality and their depth will help them come over Edmonton in 6 games. Lastly, for round two, where we have Colorado versus Vegas in the West Division. I think it's definitely going to be the best series of the second round if it happens. Vegas has been so good. Colorado has been so good. They both have really good offense, really good defense, good goaltending. But I think this is really going to come down to just who can turn up in Game 7. So, I'll pick Colorado in Game 7, but I could really see this going either way. Moving on to the third round, or the semifinals, whatever you want to call it, we have Pittsburgh versus Carolina and Toronto versus Colorado. So, starting off with Pittsburgh versus Carolina, I think this is really the road ends for Pittsburgh. They've gone this far, but Carolina is just such a good team in all aspects, and I think they can definitely handle Pittsburgh in 6 games. Moving on to Toronto versus Colorado. So, Toronto, they've gotten this far too, just like Pittsburgh, but I just don't think they can stand up against the dynamo that is the Colorado Avalanche. So I'll take Colorado Avalanche winning it in 6 games. Okay, so finally, the moment we've been waiting for. We have the Stanley Cup Finals, which will be the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Colorado Avalanche. This series is definitely going to be interesting, but I unfortunately don't see Colorado breaking the President's Trophy curse. And also, I just generally do think that Carolina has what it takes to beat Colorado. So, I'll pick Carolina winning the Stanley Cup against Colorado in 6 or 7 games. Thanks for watching. I want to say shout out to CBS Sports for the photo you see up here. I hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one.